Hi, everybody tuning in to the Activism Speaker Series. My name is Maddie, and I'm a doctoral student at the College of Education and one of the student representatives on the Diversity Board that works in collaboration with the MRC. The role of the Multicultural Resource Center is to foster knowledge, skills, understanding, and awareness in the areas of multiculturalism and diversity under the oversight of the College of Education's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Today, the MRC is so pleased to welcome our guest for the Activism Speaker Series, Beth Taglioli. Beth is currently pursuing a Ph.D. in special education at Lehigh. She is a graduate assistant and assistant director of Lehigh's School Study Council and the Greater Lehigh Valley Consortium for Excellence and Equity. Beth's research interests include emotional behavioral disorders and teacher preparation. She received her undergraduate degree in Sociology and Psychology from Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster, where she then worked as an administrator for several years. In 2010, Beth received her Master's in Higher Education Administration from the Pennsylvania State University, where she also served on the editorial board of 2 journals and as captain of the PSU Shotokan Karate Team. After leaving State College, Beth completed her Master's in Special Education as a member of Teacher for America's Philadelphia Corp and served as a secondary math and emotional support teacher. Most recently, Beth worked as a math teacher at Roberto Clemente Charter School in Allentown, where she served as department chair, RTI Program Coordinator, Student Assistance Program team member, and new teacher mentor. Beth's experiences as the college administrator, emotional support teacher, department chair, and teacher mentor have given her the ability to work with a wide variety of people. She is excited about the opportunities in the special education program and looks forward to supporting the efforts of the College of Education at Lehigh. We're so excited to have you here, Beth Taglioli.
Thank you, Maddie, for that warm welcome. This presentation is a product of a literature review that was done as part of my coursework. And today I'll be discussing the emergence of a relatively new pedagogy, culturally responsive teaching, or CRT, what it looks like at the ground level at implementation, and then possible future directions for the practice. So without further ado, the why and the why right now. So culture is fundamental to learning. It's necessary not only in communicating and receiving information, that's to say human cognition, but also in shaping the thinking process of groups and individuals. Today, a critical factor in American education is the ever-changing student population. And according to the US Census, 1 in 5 children under the age of 18 lives in poverty. Further, more than 1 in 5 children between the ages of 5 and 17 speak a language other than English at home. Clearly, meeting the needs of culturally and linguistically diverse students is an urgent need for our schools. Currently, there's a growing body of research that points to the positive influence of teacher diversity on student outcomes. And here we also see that there's a disparity between teachers and our students of color. This disparity, coupled with an ever-changing student population, emphasizes the urgent need for both CRT awareness and training. So let's go to the next. We already identified some of the whys. Now we're going to move on to the what. What is CRT? As teachers, we strive to identify our students' strengths and then build upon them in order to optimize their learning. Culture is a strength that we can build upon. Culturally responsive teaching, again, CRT, is a research-based approach to teaching. It connects students' cultures, languages, life experiences to what they learn in school. They bring these connections with them to school every single day. And by being able to help students make those connections in the classroom, they can access the rigorous curriculum and develop higher levels of academic skill. Geneva Gray identifies and defines CRT as using the cultural knowledge, prior experiences, frames of reference, and performance styles of ethnically diverse students to make learning encounters more relevant and effective for them. When implemented with fidelity, CRT can be powerful. It's a powerful way to reach all students. So let's discuss why. CRT is an approach that's based in cognitive science. Our brains are wired to make connections. It's easier for our brains to learn and store information when we have a hook to hang on to. And that hook is our background knowledge. And students bring this again to the classroom every single day. Hammond argues that CRT is a natural partner for neuroscience because it encompasses the social, emotional, relational, and cognitive aspects of teaching culturally and linguistically diverse students. In fact, results of her research have shown that the use of CRT can trigger the brain's unique ability to grow. This further emphasizes its use to bridge the achievement gap and provide equitable access to content for our students from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. One of the goals of 21st century learning is to move beyond the acquisition of discrete facts and develop the problem-based skills needed to put information into practice. In order to develop the needed higher level problem-solving skills, we need to harness culturally responsive teaching to make those deeper connections for our students so they can access the higher levels of content that we need them to. Also, CRT values and reflects the assets of all students. By doing that, it raises the academic expectations, again, for all students. So that sends the message that multiculturalism is an asset. That's good for everybody. So what does this look like at implementation? What does it look like at the ground level? And what does it mean for teachers? So let's now move on to the how. The challenge for many of our schools is how do you make CRT, culturally responsive teaching, accessible to our teachers? How do you make it tangible, something that they can actually use? And here today, I hope to provide a way to understand and organize the critical features of CRT. The goal is operationalizing CRT as a tool in the service of supporting all students, especially those with culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. Let's get started. We know that parent involvement results in better achievement. By using this, we can practice CRT first by seeking to understand our parents' hopes, their concerns, and their suggestions for working with their children. It's important to engage our parents as early as possible, and by doing this in authentic and sincere ways. As teachers, you can start by educating yourself on your students, their community, their families, their values. I think today is a great start by attending this presentation. So thank you. And two, communicating high expectations. We know that effective and consistent communication of those high expectations helps our students develop a healthy self-concept. With that, we can practice CRT here by communicating clear, specific expectations. This is something that teachers can learn, and it's definitely something that all teachers should practice. By praising students for meeting very specific positive expectations, we can demonstrate an environment that's genuine, respectful of our students, and believes in their capabilities. We also know that maximizing learning opportunities, teachers need to engage students. We can practice CRT here by adapting our lessons so they reflect ways of communicating and learning that are familiar to our students. That can look like varying your teaching strategies by using call and response chants to energize students, using cooperative learning opportunities or role-playing strategies. And further, our curriculum should be integrated, interdisciplinary, meaningful, and student-centered. What does this mean? This means using resources other than textbooks. It means assigning students research projects that focus on issues or concepts that are important to them. Ask them. They have concepts and research projects that are interesting and important to them that they will dive deeper into if given the opportunity. And then 4, We know that learning is a social process, and we can practice CRT by encouraging our students to direct their own learning. For example, selecting their own reading, like these students from Trexler Middle School in Allentown. This can also look like conducting regular interest surveys of your students. Ask them, what do they like to do? Who do they envision being when they grow up? Do they prefer that you give a positive phone call to dad or to grandma? We also know that instruction and learning should take place in an environment that encourages multicultural viewpoints. Here we can practice CRT by representing information in diverse ways. Culturally aligning our class rules. Do you and your students have the same understanding what quiet means? Quiet in your home might look different than in your students' homes. Have a discussion, negotiate the meaning of quiet together with your students. It might take some extra time and planning initially, but it's an investment in your classroom and your students that will pay dividends later if you invest in them now. Academically, identifying common Latin roots for the language, the academic language that you're using. Find ways to connect with students, or ways for them to grab and hold on to the information that you're presenting to them. And then last, we know that our teachers can act as guides, mediators, consultants, instructors, and advocates for our students. And we know that learning is more significant to students if applied to real life situations. So here we can practice CRT by helping our students make those connections, help them to connect their culturally and community-based knowledge to their learning experiences. This can look like students sharing artifacts from their home that reflect their culture. This can look like writing about traditions that they share at home. Encouraging them to learn about those traditions by interviewing a family, community member, and also encouraging your students to take intellectual risks in your classroom. Because without those risks, students can't imagine, they can't create, and they don't grow. So what's next? Where do we go from here? Well, this presentation offers some suggestions for reversing the underachievement of culturally and linguistically diverse students through the use of CRT. The implementation of CRT alone isn't a cure-all. Here's just a couple ideas for the future. Much of it centers around funding. We're hoping that an investment from larger agencies of monetary value can help us invest in other ways into our students in our classrooms. Today, I hope you take away a couple things. And while comprehensive education reform is beyond the scope of this presentation, there are a few things that I hope you'll take away. CRT begins with an awareness of the cultures of your students and the community that your school serves. This requires teachers to think creatively, critically about how culture is used as an instructional tool. And I ask that you be brave. I ask that you seek help if you need it, that you try something new, maybe next week, maybe next unit, but try. And I hope you have fun. Thank you.
Beth, thank you so much for sharing your work surrounding culturally responsive teaching. This was so rich and so important. And thank you for wherever you are tuning into this speaker series. We hope that you take a few moments to fill out the reflection form that you can find in the caption below, and let us know if you or someone that you know would make a great next speaker for our series. Beth, thank you again so much on behalf of the MRC committee. We are so grateful for your activism.